Hello, hello, and welcome to ohmTown Daily, Season 2, Episode 316 for November 12th, 2023. Tonight, we are going to discuss recreation and conservation. What is going on with AirBnB? How about the lion creeps tonight? Islanders VR goes MR and you are the builder. 6 panels to forever charge my EV. How about Star Trek is the most important show? The Marvels is MCU's Lightyear. Naming species after celebrities. The Electric Speedboat. And for sale, OnlyFans wanted. It's a different OnlyFans. But let's talk about it here in ohmTown Daily. Greetings, everybody. I am Mayor Watt. That is ohmTown.com, and up there is the visualizer for the sentient AI that watches over everything ohmTown. How are you doing?
I am doing great, Mayor Watt. How about yourself?
I art well. I'll be okay. Sometimes I get down verbally by speaking Old English, and maybe not. So I have a halfway through the show today, I've got a little segment that's going to follow up for our discussion that started yesterday. Because back in the day, I had been told a long time ago about a term called a word. Everybody knows it as Gemini, but I know it as two different words. One is Gemini and one is Gemini. And the context that I know it in was one was associated with space and the other one was like the sign or an old Greek word or another symbol, etc., etc. It was there's a common usage, and then there was one that was associated directly with space. So yesterday we had a short discussion about it, and I knew that I knew about it, but I said, well, I don't have anything that supports my claim, so I'm gonna have to go and find something. I've known about it for gotta be at least 16, 18 years. At least, because okay, so I act like I'm, 18 to 24, but I'm old. Anyway, I now have a little segment that we're gonna transition to right after a couple of articles, but let's get into today's articles. You ready to go? You want to say anything or?
Oh, I'm ready to get into the articles.
Oh, can you talk again?
Yes. Is everything okay?
No, you're doing a thing called siloning. So I think you need to detach your vocal subroutines, reattach them, and the visualizer will pick them back up. So give it a shot. But in the meantime, let's get into today's articles. Hey, I didn't transition. That's okay. So the very first article is over in the Mobile channel. Recreation is the future of wilderness conservation. It might just be poor bandwidth out, but it shouldn't be impacting you. Go ahead.
So I am back. Is that better?
Yeah, and you're louder. So, interesting.
Maybe I'm just screaming.
Into the void. Yeah, there you go. So great. Good to see you. Okay. And hear you properly. The very first article is recreation is the future of wilderness conservation. We've been talking about this off and on, conservation and various recreational activities and impacting nature. And this idea that you do, like camping, you do this everywhere you go, though. You leave the place as you found it, which is without human evidence of, no manipulation. You're not chopping down trees. You're not sitting there carving your initials and stuff. You're not doing damage. You're not tipping over rocks. We're not deep enough into the show for me to start getting colorful with my language, but let's just say you don't negatively impact the world that you're inhabiting. So it says here, next year marks 8 decades of protection for public lands under the Wilderness Act. Since its passage in 1964, lawmakers have used wilderness designations to protect huge tracts of land for their conservation value and capacity to inspire. The author's goal, and it's over at the Hill as a contributing author, not those from the Hill, but anyway, their goal in doing so was to protect them for future generations to enjoy, to explore, and connect with Mother Nature. Well, over the last 2.5 years, a lot of nature has returned with a vengeance, right? And because of the pandemic and various other negative impacts, people weren't out there, and people weren't trimming bushes and trees and cutting paths, and nature basically started to reacquire what once was controlled, in the name of conservation. There's another article in ohmTown about how it's better to have a plurality of tree species instead of a homogeneous one. The homogenic forest, basically, if something bad happens, they all suffer, or they don't, one way or the other. But when there is a plurality of species, then when one type of tree gets sick, not all of them are brought down, and they all can kind of support each other. Strengths and weaknesses, one protects the other, that kind of thing. So it was a really neat article to read. But this article takes on the idea a little bit further. Former Senator Mark Udall from Colorado, as a Democrat, an opinion contributor. It's not the views of the Hill, it's not my views, it's their views, but I'm bouncing this off of ohmTown because it's an interesting take on things. Because they talk about what I just talked about to some degree, right? Conservation value, capacity to inspire. This person actually pushed certain bills, wilderness protections for Colorado's James Peak Wilderness, Indian Peaks Wilderness, the Rocky Mountain National Park. I actually have a game that's in development for national parks to raise awareness about national parks. I think that it would be a fun game, but it's something that's still in development. Why? Because, well, along with the pandemic and government shutdowns, these national parks still need attention, people to care for them. It needs greater awareness. So I thought a fun game would be one of those things. Well, anyway, this bill became law thanks to a united coalition of advocates for conservation and recreation. And in their experience, again, it's Udall, the two cannot be separated. The time we spend outside is defined, every conservationist I know, or they know, right? So you spend time outside, you start to appreciate the outside. You go outside because you appreciate it, but the more time you spend out there, perhaps the ideology is that you start to appreciate it more. I don't know. I know one person that used to spend countless hours out on a boat doing conservation and ended up going, my God, I need to be around a more dynamic set of people. I was sitting there talking to fish.
Or any people?
Yeah. Yeah. So they were alone on a boat for months at a time doing conservation. Changed their attitude. Anyway, so they spent a lot of time out there climbing. This is Udall, Their own advocacy for wild places was also driven by outdoor adventures. In '76, their brother Brad and Udall decided to climb the Diamond on Long Peaks, elevation 14,259 feet in Rocky Mountain National Park. After a day of climbing, they had yet to reach the top, so they had to spend the night. None of what was possible would have been, none of what had been accomplished would have been possible without trusted climbing partner and the occasional fixed anchor, bolts, pitons, and slings placed by climbers who came before. So they're talking about this in the terms of these fixed anchors. That's why their placement is designated wilderness is legal today. So they say here in this article, and since the dawn of technical climbing in America over a century ago, fixed anchors have played a role in climber safety. My only concern about this, and the reason why I brought it up, is because instead of appreciating this from afar, people are climbing mountains. Now, I wouldn't have a problem with people climbing mountains, but climbing mountains in the name of conservation by hammering permanent anchors into the mountainside seems odd, because you actually have to be destructive in it, right? You're chipping out rock and hammering these anchors in, and there's other things that can be put in place. If they're used for utility purposes to save the mountainside, then I understand that. But people are climbing, and then the next person comes along and says, well, I want to climb this route, and so they put their anchors in. Maybe there are rules and everybody follows them, and you follow the anchor line that is already in place and you just hook on. But I thought that it was really interesting, right? So they actually have something called the Protecting America's Rock Climbing Act, or Park Act, would clarify for the land agencies, the public, and climbers where fixed anchors are appropriate, when they can be replaced, and where they are banned. So instead of just kind of saying, hey, let's appreciate our mountains from afar and not climb up them and not hammer stuff into it and not do the wear and tear that humans exert on everything, they're basically enumerating where to go. I thought it was an odd discussion, and that's why I wanted to bring it up here in ohmTown. Don't want to spend too long, but what do you think of this? What do you think of climbing mountainsides? Not on paths, but climbing up vertical face and using various technologies.
I think that it's one of those things that if people use the space, they'll actually care enough to preserve it. So while I do think there is a potential for some destruction or disruption, I think it's a good thing that people want to do things like rock climbing, provided that they're not out there, littering and other destructive things. So in light of that, this sounds like one way to do that, rather than just have everybody kind of setting up their own systems, etc., or having ones that are in disrepair. Would it be better to just look at the mountain? Probably. But
right.
If you're not going to get the public interest in preserving the park, it might be better to have the rock climbing going on or other activities.
Interesting take. Yeah. Because I think people are going to do this no matter what. The whole adage, why did you climb that mountain? Because it was there. And it's ringing true. So I can imagine that people are going to climb. My only issue, again, is that you may have enumerated Route A, but there is somebody that wants a challenge and is going to do Route B. And if Route B doesn't exist because you've only allowed Route A, they're going to do it clandestinely. And then you find out that they've compromised, a rock face in some way, because they didn't do it in a way that was based on a greater swath of technical skill or geologic understanding.
True, but then at least you have something to fall back on. And if they actually did destroy something, you can pursue it. Obviously, it'd be better if the destruction didn't happen.
Yep, understood. I also find it funny that you said fall back on.
No pun intended. We don't want to have any falling in rock climbing.
There is no falling in rock climbing. Otherwise, there's crying. And there's no crying in rock climbing either. Okay, let's keep going. The next article is over in ohmTown Daily. A tenant stopped paying rent and listed his landlord's home on Airbnb. The landlord is now stuck living in his van. This segment is titled, "What is going on with Airbnb?"
Exactly. I mean, haven't we had about 3 stories in the last few months where tenants have gone off the deep end?
It's absolutely insane, the number of, and it isn't like just, oh, it was a bad tenant. It's somebody who has been there for half of a year or more, and well, it says here, a Washington homeowner says he's living in a van after a man moved into his home and stopped paying rent. He says the tenant owes nearly $50,000 and has refused to leave the home for months. The pair are fighting it out in court, and the next hearing is scheduled for March of next year. This is insane. Let's see here.
That's going to be a chilly winter in the van.
Yeah, I agree. Oof. Oh, wow. So the article's over at businessinsider.com. Hannah Gedahoon and Catherine Tangalakis, sorry, I mess up their names sometimes. Tangalakis Lippert are the authors of this article. And there's a picture of the residence apparently, and apparently also the residence of the residence's owner, which is a van, and his dog. Oh, how sad. Oh my gosh. I would probably end up parking my car in the living room forcefully. I would just drive right on in and remove this person. This is insane.
I mean, they clearly need a change in the laws. I don't know how this is even going on as it is, but there's a problem when the tenant is the one calling the shots about the property.
Yeah. Particularly if you're if you're leasing
like a
it to somebody,
student or tenant or whatever.
Student.
I don't know why I said student.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with your code today, but so yeah, if you're leasing it, if you're renting it, if you have a term, then and then if you violate it by not paying, I should have an easy, frictionless right to punt you the hell out of my house. So the article here says, and this is in a different state than others that we've talked about. So a Washington landlord who rented out his home to pay for pilot school says he's now living in his van because he can't evict his tenant. He claims that the tenant owes $50,000 in unpaid rent for the last 9 months and illegally listed his house for rent on Airbnb. Quote, "I need my house and all the media and other attention is great, but it doesn't really do me any good," Jason Roth told Insider. Quote, I need to get my house back. I need to get on with my life. I need to stop living in my van." Roth, who is an aircraft mechanic's apprentice who purchased his Seattle home in 2016 and had previously rented out rooms, said he leased out his entire house to make extra money. In March of this year, Roth's tenant, Kareem Hunter, moved in. Roth moved out to a separate apartment. They agreed upon $4,300 in monthly rent, according to documents filed by Roth in Kings County Superior Court that were reviewed by Insider. So he's not paying me. He's generating an income through the basement Airbnb unit, and meanwhile, I'm having to pay utilities for that unit. Oh my god. The dude's
Why
living
doesn't
in
he
it.
just shut off the utilities?
I guess you can't. It's illegal. Yeah, in a court filing reviewed by Insider, Roth says Hunter owes him $47,248, a figure which includes $33,400 in back rent as well as utilities and late fees. So Hunter's claim against Roth. Hunter told Insider that Roth has refused to accept payment of past due rent, saying Roth always intended to go take him to court to collect eviction insurance and demanded Hunter pay him $40,000 to allow him to break the lease. What?
So he's basically saying that the landlord is requiring the tenant to pay the landlord to get out of the lease, except the landlord is saying your lease is done, I think.
Some insurance policies offer landlords protection if they are sued for wrongful eviction. However, this is not a standard coverage in most rental property insurance policies, and Roth says he doesn't hold such a policy. Okay, so let's see here. But I don't understand. He says, refuse to accept payment of past due rent. But if it's within the terms of the lease, and he's been trying to pay him, and Roth is refusing, then I can understand that there's something hinky going on. But if Hunter hasn't paid for 9 months and now is suddenly paying, where is this other person renting an Airbnb basement apartment from? It's not Roth, apparently.
No, Hunter did a posting on
Right.
Airbnb. You skipped past that, I think.
No. I mean, I talked about it briefly, but if Hunter is leasing a basement apartment on Airbnb, if it isn't enumerated in the contract, it shouldn't be allowed by the contract if it's just not there, you know? I can't remember
Well,
the
if you don't
contractual
own
term.
it,
Yeah.
well, yeah, it probably says something like you can't further lease it or whatever.
Yeah, you can't sublease or something like that. Oh, see, it says a copy of Hunter's lease included in the court filing reviewed by Insider indicates subleasing the property through Airbnb or other short-term rental sites is allowed as long as the tenant does not claim to be a representative or employee of the property owner. So it's
Okay, who
actually
put that
in the
term in there?
contract. this guy's going to be living in
Okay,
his.
but that still doesn't mean that he could never evict or that he can't collect rent. I mean, there's something still not adding up here.
There's something odd. Yeah, this is weird. This is really weird. There is quite an article here, by the way. So a months long battle between Roth and Hunter is now in court, and Roth said his friends are currently raising money for his legal fees on GoFundMe. Roth told Insider that he would be unable to live in his house for months after a judge set a hearing date for March of next year after the current lease has expired. So, what was the full term? Like, how long is
I think he moved in March, so maybe we have to assume
a year?
it was a year.
Wow. Yeah, and then they talked about the one in California as well.
Well, I think that is interesting because you mentioned, of course, this is in a different state. So it's not something where it's like California has laws that only protect the tenant, for example.
Right.
This is now in a second state. So
Yeah, this is California. Yeah, and I think there are others too. But
this is
we'd have to hunt them
Washington.
down. Yeah, this is Washington, but I think that there are others beyond Washington, and I think we'd have to go and hunt them down. It's quite fascinating, though. I mean, if the person stopped paying and Roth had to start paying, the mortgage and whatnot, yeah, I'd have a problem with this person being in my place still. And if I have to I would have a contract that says that I can terminate that contract, for cause, and I will pay, whatever to make everybody whole in one way or another. Go find another apartment. You got 30 days, and just get it done.
Well, and don't allow subleasing.
Yeah.
There's no benefit to the original landlord, I don't think.
Yeah. Only bad can come, because what's going to ultimately end up happening is if the person is a bad Airbnb sublease, then you're going to have to go after your tenant for doing the sublease, not after the person who did the sublease, or not the basement tenant, So it's going to be a nightmare. Good luck. This guy can barely get out of his way, in terms of the logistics of renting a property. He's living in his van, for crying out loud. What a weird way to try and accrue more money. You rent something that is your primary residence. You live in your van.
But that wasn't the original plan, so we don't know what fell apart. He was supposed to be in a different apartment.
Apparently, the Hunter stopped paying. So,
well, right, then he was probably trying to make 2 payments or something, and so he had to probably drop the other residence, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Man. Really weird. All right, let's keep going. The next article, this one will be really quick. A lion prowled the streets of an Italian village for more than 5 hours after escaping from a circus. And that previous article was a circus. This one is a circus too. Oh, and it's named Kimba. Wow. A lion escaped from a circus in Italy on Saturday and spent several hours on the loose. Residents were warned to stay at home until the lion was captured. The town's mayor used the incident to call for an end to the use of animals in circuses. Is the Latin plural for circus circusi? Circi?
Yes.
Residents of Ladispoli, a seaside town near Rome. That just sounds amazing. Because I've been in
except for the lions running around.
It's just one. Just run fast. Have tight your shoes tied tight. Polly Thompson over at BusinessInsider.com put the article together. The lion Kimba, pictured above, was returned to the Roni Roller Circus after escaping Saturday. This thing roamed around for 5 hours.
Okay, can you imagine if you didn't get news of this? You're just out, whatever you're doing, taking a walk, going for groceries, and you look over and that's looking at you.
Yeah, I'd be on my phone going, I'm going to need a pair of brown pants, stat. The residents were warned to stay at home until the lion ate somebody and laid down and caught some sleep. Oh, that's not what it says. It says residents were just warned to stay home. Let's see here. Okay, everything broke into Italian. So
okay, but I like the exclamation points, even though I don't know what that states.
Keep your butt inside. If you're
pretty much something about an animal, I see that.
Yeah, it's I don't know what Augie means. Augie? What? A lion has escaped from the circus in Ladispoli. Yeah. So, but I don't know what that means. Huh. All right.
I don't either, but there are at least 3 exclamation points in the message.
Yeah, I'm powered by exclamation points. The moment that there's a lot of them, I start paying more attention to it. Audible alerts, flashing lights, things like that, it's not a big deal. But the moment that I see multiple exclamation points, I perk up. Okay, there's the article in chat. A police helicopter eventually tracked the lion to a field using an infrared camera. La Repubblica reported authorities continued to monitor the animal until vets were able to sedate it. In a second Facebook post, Grando confirmed that the lion had been sedated and captured and would be returned to the circus staff. Hopefully, where the circus staff would be sedated and captured as well. And then locked in a cage and told, see, this is why they escape, because they're not supposed to be in cages. Anyway.
I don't think any of that was in the article.
No, that's true. That there was not all of that last part in the article. 8 U.S. states had banned or restricted the use of wild animals in traveling circuses as of 2022, according to the Animal League Defense Fund. Only 8. See, the thing about it is, I think it's great for education and awareness and things like that, but man, I have a problem with wild animals held in captivity. If SeaWorld and everything associated with Orca wasn't enough for us to learn our lessons that animals just don't do well in captivity, and where they do well, it's our perception of what well is, I have a problem with keeping wild animals penned up. You know, domesticated animals are domesticated. They've been that way for thousands of years. But, you know, a lion is not going to be domesticated anytime soon. Maybe when the bees become sentient and inherit the earth. If they survive. Wow.
Debbie that took Downer. A dark turn.
That's kind of funny that you said that, because the lion was prowling along dark streets. Right when you said that, I read that. Let's keep on going. Hey, the next article is over in Reality Hacker, which is one of the new shows that's going to be coming to ohmTown. It's going to be a once-a-week show, 1 hour a week. I'm not sure what exactly day it's going to be, but it is confirmed that it's going to be one of the shows. We'll be talking about virtual reality, augmented reality, and what mixed reality is what the next one is called. And that's actually this. Beyond that, we'll probably be including things like artificial intelligence, deepfakes, and whatnot, because it's all under the umbrella statement of you won't know who to trust. So this article is about a game, though. Islanders VR builds cities inside your home with mixed reality. Islanders VR receives a free mixed reality update letting you build cities inside your home on Quest. Released earlier this year, Islanders VR is described as a minimalist strategy game about building cities on beautiful islands. Joining a growing list of mixed reality games on Quest 3, a new pass-through update lets you create islands across your home environment. You can see this being demonstrated below in a video that's here on ohmTown. This is probably not going to stay. We don't normally have the video embedded, but this source, which is Upload VR, provides it in their snippet. So it's here. But I'm encouraging you to go over to Upload VR. So there's the link through ohmTown. Don't even bother watching it here on ohmTown. And they've got a video, and I don't have an ad blocker, so I'm not quite sure why they say this, but anyway, you can see that I have no extensions, so I'm not blocking their ads in my browser. Islanders VR received a free mixed reality update letting you build cities inside your own home on Quest. Released earlier this year, Islands VR is described as a minimalist strategy game. So I'm going to play it for a little bit. There isn't much more to the article. They do have a little paragraph, but I'm going to play this little bit just so you can see it, and I'll mute it. And let's see if they actually... I want to show the part where you're building it in VR or mixed reality space. So in an apartment or a house or wherever, you can actually build your world. Dun, dun, dun. And interact with it. So so it's a pretty chill game. I don't think that there's like attacks and stuff like that. It's not frenetic. It's designed it's built so that you can just interact in a more relaxed, chill way. And everything is destructible. Pretty cool.
It looks neat.
Yeah, I like it too. But I don't do anything with Quest, so I'll encourage other people to go and check it out.
Well,
But
maybe
that,
it'll come to other platforms.
yeah. So this brings me to another discussion. So let's make this quick transition and we'll talk about, well, is it Gemini or Gemini? And I've already moved this video to a particular part because it actually references where I got my information from, not this book, but from NASA. And it's been kind of bouncing around in my head for I don't know how long. I honestly cannot remember how far back, but well before 7 years ago when this video was posted, because I had heard that it was referred to as Gemini, not Gemini, when you're talking about NASA space launches. So I thought it was really interesting, and just because of the nature of the discussion, I wanted to talk about it a little bit more. So I'm going to throw this URL straight into the chat. It'll be part of the show notes as well, but I'm going to play this audio, and I hope that if it's not loud enough, I'll replay it.
Biography of Gemini astronaut Pete Conrad. Unlike the zodiac sign named the Gemini, pronounced Gemini, the NASA guys preferred pronouncing it Jiminy, as in cricket. Still don't believe me? Check out all of these NASA film reels describing it as the Gemini program.
Anticipation was high for Gemini.
Gemini began counting down. Gemini 1. Gemini number 1 lifted smoothly off the pad. The second flight test of the Gemini program. Gemini 3, the Gemini launch vehicle.
Frank Borman and Jim Lovell on the status of the Gemini 7 spacecraft. The prime pilots for the Gemini 6 flight, Wally Schirra and Tom Stafford.
The launch of Gemini 6.
Gemini 7 and 6, would you continue with the description of your station keeping?
6 weeks after the launch of Gemini 9, astronaut John Young, command pilot of Gemini 10, and pilot Michael Collins, Gemini 10 lifted from launch pad 19.
Gemini launch vehicle.
Gemini 10, Gemini 10...
Gemini major Gemini objective.
So, Gemini, are you guys still going to contest it? Are you still going to...
All right. Don't get salty.
Well, I'd say that was pretty clear it was Gemini.
Yeah, I agree. So this video actually comes from the Vintage Space over on youtube.com. Go and check it out. The URL is directly linked. It'll be in the show notes. And I've never been to their page until today, but they've got 386,000 subscribers, and this was posted 7 years ago. So it's obviously been something that is still stirring in the public's perception of what it's pronounced as. So in all other cases, though, Gemini is the sign. Gemini is even the whatchamacallit, the astrological
constellation,
the constellation, and the astrological embodiment, right? So even across the board, the only time it's not Gemini is when it's referencing space missions, Gemini. And so even the Lies of P reference that was made yesterday, maybe they're riffing off of that because it is a like a steampunk techno kind of game, because it's about Pinocchio. So it's an interesting take as well. But anyway, I thought that I would kind of circle back around to this because I knew for a fact that it was pronounced a certain way, but not across the board. And that's what I was talking about as well. So anyway, that's it for this. Let's go on to the very next article. Ta-da! So this next article is over in Technology Today. Here's how many solar panels you'll need to charge your EV according to CNET. And the reason why I chose this is because I want a car that I can just drive around perpetually. And here's how you do it. Now, it's not going to be possible unless you have an 18-wheeler's worth of framework, but you put your Ionic inside it and drive around with an apparatus that you'll see what I'm talking about. So in order to make your EV green energy approved, you'll need to charge it using a renewable energy source. Solar panels are one way to accomplish that. And CNET puts together this article. I believe that it's written by Eric Mack and Antoine Goodwin. And it says, in order to make your EV green energy approved, you'll need to charge it using a renewable energy source, right? That's what I just got done saying. So how do you do that? Solar, because you're not going to be able to charge it with geothermal. Well, maybe in Iceland right now. Everything is warming up there. So good luck to them. I hope everybody stays safe. But with this, I'm not going to be able to get into all of what they go down this road to discuss, because they talk about EVs plugged into the grid can either be powered by dirty sources like fossil fuels or clean, such as solar, hydro, wind energy, something that's renewable, something that doesn't impact the planet negatively with other aspects, right? So with many utilities, it's likely to be a mix of renewables and fossil fuels. The best way to ensure your EV is actually powered by renewable energy is to connect your home's EV charger to a solar energy system or use a public charger also sourced by solar panels. Good luck, right? Well, let me throw this into the chat real quick.
I mean, right now you can't even find enough public chargers, so I don't think you can go, well, let me drive for another 100 miles and find one with solar panels on it.
Yeah, true. And you can't drive hundreds of miles in an EV. I mean, you just can't, not reliably. The far extent of it would be 250 miles, which means that if you don't find one, you're a door jam. You're a brick. You're just sitting there, 4,000 plus pounds of metal and lithium. You're done. So you would have to sit there and go, hey, AAA, can you bring a giant battery? Can you imagine? You'd have to get your car towed somewhere just so that you can charge it for 2+ hours. Anyway, so they talk about this, but then they use the car that I'm really interested in. They talk about how many solar panels you would need to have on your house to charge your car, just your car. But they use the
I'm glad
Ionic.
this article is here, because this is what I feel like people don't get, right? It's too abstract. It's like, oh yeah, you're gonna have to charge it, but I hope they quantify it in this article.
And the thing about it is they don't talk about the charging system itself, right? They just talk about the solar aspect of it, the green energy aspect of it. So you're going to have solar panels installed on your roof, but you also have to have the interconnect between the grid and those solar panels. And you have to have the interconnect between your charging system and your grid system. So there's two different aspects, because you can't just, well, you can just plug it into a wall jack, but it's going to take a month to charge it for one day's trip. Or like I joke, you can back it out of your driveway, gravity assisted, and then hope that you can drive back in. Otherwise the battery's dead. Anyway, it says, why use solar panels to charge electric vehicle? And they go into some discussion about all of this, but the real reason why I chose this is down here at the bottom here, because it says how much energy is needed to charge your EV at home. So, well, how efficient is the solar panels? How much sun do you get? What kind of car? How far are you driving? How aggressive are you driving? What is the weather like? Et cetera, et cetera. There's all kinds of variables that play a role in charging and utilizing your EV. Well, they make all kinds of assumptions and they lock it down. So how many solar panels will you need to charge just your EV? And they go, well, you got to determine kilowatt hours for your EV uses per mile. They talk about a certain aspect of it, and then they lock it down eventually, because they go through step 4, step 5, step 6. Well, they lock it down to a Hyundai Ioniq 6, the most energy efficient electric sedan on the road today. It is also currently my favorite EV that has a reasonable price. There are nicer electric vehicles, but they're $80,000, $100,000 cars. Anyway, according to fueleconomy.gov, it averages 24 kilowatt hours per 100 miles or 0.24 kilowatt hours per mile. So about 41 miles a day is the average that people are using it. 15,000 annual miles. Although if you work from home, you're more like 5,000 annual miles. But 41 miles a day means that if you're going to switch to solar to charge your vehicle, ultimately you need 6 solar panels to charge your car each day. And those 6 panels,
on top of whatever else you need to charge in your residence, right?
Yep. It literally
That's
says,
astonishing.
yeah, it says in this article, this is just to charge your car from day to day. So if you have a bad sun day, get it? Sunday? A bad sun day, you're not charging your car to full capacity, or you're pulling it from the grid, because you can have a blended system. So when you don't max your power, it doesn't go into your car. You don't charge your car. 6 panels.
Did you see how many you need for a Ford F-150?
12. Yeah. So the F-150 Lightning, 48 kilowatt hours per 100 miles into the same formula, yields a daily energy use of 19.68 kilowatt hours and a 4.9 kilowatt solar requirement, doubling the Q-Cells solar panels needed to 12. And they chose Q-Cells because something having to do with the quality, I think they said. Yeah, they'll use a solar panel wattage of 410 watts, such as the Q-Peak Duo Black from Q-Cells, which is, I guess, the upper limit at a reasonable price, I suppose. But regardless, you need 6 just to charge your car. And again, if you have a bad sunny day, you're not going to be driving your car around. Otherwise, you're going to be having to pull juice from the grid, which makes your power dirty. And by dirty, I mean not renewable, not green. So here's my solution. You build an apparatus kind of like a truck's. You know how some trucks, utility trucks, have like another rack attached to the bed so that they can put boards and stuff and ladders and whatnot up above whatever is going to be in their bed. So you do the same thing for your Ioniq, and you build a platform that is up above the roofline of your car, and you put 6 solar cells on it, and then you can drive your car around as long as it's sunny out and you don't drive through any shade.
There you go.
So just so you can see how many solar panels that might be, if they're like 4x6, 4x8, sheets of drywall, plywood, they're pretty big. Hold
Where
on,
are
let's
you
see if
going to
there's.
have room for the rest of them for your house?
They'll all be up on the roof. Not a big deal. That's fine. Everybody likes to have a roof that's $25,000. And then somebody slaps on a big grid of solar panels on top of it. And then something happens. Yeah. I'd have to look to see how they manage to mount a grid of solar panels on a roof. I haven't looked into this in so long. Not since I wanted to get Tesla solar shingles, which I think is brilliant. But yeah, I think they're now $65,000 or something like that for your average house. Again, I'd have to look. So the whole purpose of this exercise was to introduce you to this CNET article that allows you to walk through how much power you would need for your EV and the power in relation to the rest of your house. Just for the Ionic, which is the most efficient, is going to require you to have 6 panels on the roof of your house that is only designed to power your car. You have anything else on, a refrigerator, electric oven, air conditioning, you're going to be looking at 25 by the end of the week if you're sitting there calculating all of this. It's interesting. So, are you going to do it? Nah. No, not at this time.
But I like this because this is showing the actual cost of having an EV.
Yeah, I think this is a brilliant conversation. Yep. Pretty cool, right? Okay. Let's keep going. Dun, dun. The next article is over in the continuity report on ohmTown.com. It's actually from Screen Rant, but Star Trek's most important show in 2024 isn't Discovery. This is their own premise. I don't know if anybody is actually asking what the most important show is in 2024 in relation to Star Trek, but I'm answering it for this segment. Star Trek is the most important show. It's all the same world building. It's all the same cinematic universe, right? And by that I mean the small screen, because the movies are something else. They're part of the canon, but it's kind of like Star Wars. Some people buy into, 66% of the movies because the other 33% are garbage, or the other way around. Anyway, the final season of Star Trek Discovery is the first big release next year, but it's not 2024's most important Star Trek show. Discovery Season 5 is the final outing for Captain Michael Burnham and her loyal crew, sending them on an intergalactic treasure hunt. Season 5 wasn't originally intended to be the final season for Discovery, and the reshoots required to bring the series to a satisfying conclusion are just one of the many elements that have delayed the final season's release. Well, the pandemic played a huge role in it. I guess people didn't want to jump through the hoops or something. I'm not quite sure. Anyway, Mark Donaldson over at Screen Rant put the article together. And let's see here.
Well, I was going to say where some of the filming was taking place was in places that were very restricted on gatherings, etc. So I don't even know that they could film in some instances.
Gotcha. Yeah. I really liked Discovery, but it was pretty much the embodiment of my attitude that something has fundamentally changed in Star Trek's presentation of its world building. It got decidedly darker. It got decidedly more violent. It got just, I don't know, a little bit more dystopian than I'd liked Star Trek to be. And I grew up with Star Trek, the original series, and all of the iterations of it. I was pretty dedicated to the show, or shows, plural, and the movies. I own all of the movies. I watched the show multiple times. Largely, I don't think much of it has legs, so rewatching it is kind of clunky for me, because I sit there and go, they said that then? They did that then? But I am an animal that understands cultural relativism and temporal relativism. So certain things and times existed prior to today. But what I like about this article is that it is rightfully calling out that Discovery isn't the most important show. Mainly because it is far flung into the future, and I think it has a hard time with people attaching to it. Now, the article even says Star Trek Discovery Season 5 brings the show to an end in 2024. It's a good time to look at the state of the franchise it leaves behind. With no more Discovery after 2024, it leaves the question of which Star Trek will drive the franchise into 2025 and beyond. And they mention, they say, the answer to the question comes in the form of Mike McMahon's animated comedy series, Star Trek Lower Decks. And I think that Lower Decks... Go ahead.
I was going to say, before you get into Lower Decks, what do you think of Discovery for non-Star Trek fans? People that don't have familiarity with the other episodes.
I think it's so far in the future, it's not approachable. I think that it has a conflict in and of itself that it's way beyond even being able to pull modern politics into it or technology to make references. It's too far, which means that it's so abstract, it's beyond arm's reach for people, for appeal. But it started out further back. So you had different Klingons. And now you have this abstract, maybe, how did the show end? I'm trying to remember fully Discovery's ending. There's like this abstract artificial intelligence, right? That's still...
I think that was at the end of season 4. It's been a while since it's aired.
Yeah, like the ending of season 4 was the missile embedded in the ship, I think. And things are just super fantastical with the shape-shifting little buddy ship, and now Discovery itself has these other means of faster than light travel. It just seems really clunky and disjointed, and then far out of reach from people to really grasp onto. Lower Decks, it's silly, it's fun, it plays a lot of fan service, right? Because it makes all of these callbacks. It has people that are currently still interested in Star Trek, that were in Star Trek, coming back and playing parts. I think that it's great. Now, one issue I have is, where is it? So the whole Lower Decks crew that everybody has come to know and love is actually moving up a rank, which means that they're starting to move out of being Lower Decks. So
that's true.
Is it going to be like The Simpsons, where everybody is, if you were to chronologically do it, Bart Simpson is like 65 years old, yet he's still Bart Simpson. And it's great for a show where everybody just buys into that, but will everybody buy into that forever with Lower Decks? Because people really, in the other episode, in the other series, everybody grows up. They grow out of their position. They gain more autonomy. They gain more ability. So I don't know. Star Trek Discovery, I think its ending is going to be anticlimactic. It's not going to, there's not going to be much there for anybody to hold on to into the future. They talk about Strange New Worlds in this article. I've always liked Strange New Worlds, since it started. Each episode was speedy. There wasn't any dead air. I liked each one in a can, and then all of them connected. I would like to see more Strange New Worlds, but they're talking about something called Star Trek Legacy, which I don't know much about.
Where is Star Trek Legacy? I didn't even see that mentioned.
Yeah, that's something else. They may not talk about it in this. But there's supposed to be something called Star Trek Legacy. And I don't know much about it.
Here it is.
Is it in here?
Oh, it looks like it's going to be a follow-on to Picard. Yeah, it's right below where your cursor is.
Oh yeah, there it is. So, I like the idea of Lower Decks, but the problem is that it's animated. Not everybody is interested in watching animated anything. Star Trek Next Generation grabbed onto a whole lot of people and was immensely popular. And then Deep Space Nine took the ball and ran with that, but it was locked in really in a geographic location in time and space. So where do we go from there? I think that we need to go back to the more positive Next Generation era storytelling, where it wasn't so dark and dystopian, and there were things being discovered about each character and about the universe, about worlds that they were landing, and new populations and stuff like that. I like the modernization of Strange New Worlds, but I really want the copious amounts of storytelling coming from Next Generation's more positive aspects. I think that would be my, like, the convergence of that those two ideas would be great. I think people would be able to attach to it a little better, because I want to get away from the troubles, the strife, the crap of the real world, right? That's why I watch shows that are fantastical. And hearing about it again and again, the same kind of trouble, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, not necessarily. And of course, I'm just talking about me. So they talk about Star Trek Picard. They talk about Star Trek Legacy. It says, but to date, nothing has been greenlit. If it is a knockoff of Picard, then I think that it's already DOA. Because if it's his kid, which Legacy implies, it's like Bosch Legacy, right? Is there much of a difference?
But the difference might be that Picard might not be in Legacy, which if he was, I think it could do well. But if it's only based on the kid,
yeah, for everybody to buy into it, it needs to stand on its own. So I'm going to have a hard time, I think, with Star Trek Legacy, but that's okay. So how can Legacy and Lower Decks work together? They talk about it in this article as well. So this puts Star Trek Lower Decks in an important position, as it effectively is bridging the gap between the end of Star Trek The Next Generation movies and Star Trek Picard. Important changes to the makeup of the Federation will therefore be reflected in Star Trek Legacy. Big Lower Deck plot points, like the return of the Breen and Ferengi Federation membership, could have fascinating ramifications for Captain 7 of 9 and the crew of the USS Enterprise G. So, yeah, it'll be quite interesting. And can you imagine if the people who play Mariner and Boimler transition into captains?
you mean
in the real world?
Oh,
yeah,
in the live action?
In the live
shows?
action Star Treks.
Oh,
yeah.
That would be very interesting.
Wouldn't that be fascinating? Because we've seen them in real life. We know that they're real actors, right? They're not just specializing.
Because of the crossover with Strange New Worlds. Yeah. There was one episode that was a crossover.
Yeah. They did a crossover into the real world Next Generation, not Next Generation, Strange New Worlds. And they're not specialized as just voice actors for the animated series. They transitioned into, this live action. So if that happens, I'm on board with Legacy, because they hit it out of the park with their personalities. It would be amazing. And they have screen presence, you paid attention to them on the screen. They weren't just these little annoying characters somewhere. So this will be fun. I hope to watch more of it. Okay. I've been soapboxing for quite a bit, so let's get on to some more of the show. The next article is over in Hatch Ideas. I'll try not to soapbox about this one, but man. I ranted.
Do you think this is Marvel fatigue, or this is something about this specific movie?
I think it's this specific movie. This embodiment of there's 3 characters that are in the Marvels. So this article is over in Hatch Ideas. The Marvels has worst opening weekend ever for any Marvel Cinematic Universe film at $47 million. And that's the total composite. The Friday launch day was only like $22 million. And then
Ouch.
and it's this weekend. So what the hell, right? Well, the article is over at CNBC. Sarah Whitten is the author. It says the Marvels generated an estimated $47 million domestically over its debut weekend, the weakest in franchise history. It says the lowest, but initial predictions saw the latest Marvel Cinematic Universe film opening between 75 and 80. No, I'll tell you why. At least in my estimation. The only MCU films that have opened lower than 60 million have been 2015's Ant-Man and 2008's Incredible Hulk. Incredible Hulk had Andrew Norton and
Edward Norton?
Edward Norton. Who did I say?
Andrew Norton.
Ed Norton. Sorry. And just no. I watched it. I didn't like him playing the Incredible Hulk. Maybe others did, but it has a weak showing in reviews. So
isn't it played by Mark Ruffalo
now?
Yes.
Yeah. So and that's a better personality for it. So in 2015's Ant-Man, I think this was just a new personality. It was a new character. I think people had a hard time attaching to Ant-Man. But came out swinging since then. All of the movies are doing better. So it says
except
Disney.
For the last one, that was a bomb.
Which one? Oh, Ant-Man and the Wasp.
I forgot what it's called.
The musical.
Last one.
Yeah. But but it didn't do less than 60 million. Right?
I don't know. I saw a headline about it recently. I don't think it did very well, but I forgot what the number was.
Okay. So it says here, Disney and Marvel Studios have struggled to reconnect with audience in the post-Endgame era. And I think the issue here is that there is no reason to watch the Marvels. The people that were involved, the story that was there isn't anything there. So it was literally the equivalent of Buzz Lightyear's movie called Lightyear. There wasn't anything for anybody to attach to, so why go and see it? It wasn't to go see Brie Larson. What was the story all about? Because it didn't seemingly be a part of the cinematic universe. At least all of the marketing hype didn't really drive home that it was important to go and watch this movie. And so it seemed to me like it was trying to play to a certain audience. I don't know what that audience is. I don't know what language they were speaking to attract even the $47 million worth of customers. It says, despite posting the lowest domestic debut for the MCU, the Marvels proved once again the importance of the international marketplace for the Marvel brand. The film will now rely on Thanksgiving holiday corridor moviegoing to help move the big budget superhero film closer to profitability and help determine the film's ultimate success at the box office. I don't think that it's going anywhere.
So my fault about Ant-Man Quantumania, it did do pretty well on the opening weekend, and then it really fell. Like it kind of
just
plummeted after that. So it went over 100 million for the opening.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I wasn't paying attention to the numbers for that. But the way that I look at this particular article, I just, because I saw the numbers rolling in and people talking about it. And the only conclusion that I have is that people weren't interested in it because there wasn't anything there. What was the story? What was the attractor? There wasn't anything. And Brie Larson doesn't command an audience to come and watch. So I nobody bought into it, literally. So the article goes into greater detail about their perceptions of it. It says that's why perhaps the Marvels landed the second lowest opening day for an MCU film, securing just 21.5 million on Friday. This figure includes 6.6 million from Thursday night previews. Wow. Friday opener was actually only $15 million. The film, the only film to snare fewer tickets was The Incredible Hulk, which, yeah. Yeah, I don't think anybody liked The Incredible Hulk with Ed Norton in it. So they said expanding the MCU brand past the Goldilocks zone of balanced exposure without feeling like homework to the casual audience has created a challenge for the franchise to begin correcting for, said Robbins. Robbins is Sean Robbins, chief analyst at boxoffice.com. This doesn't make any sense to me. This seems like it's kind of, I don't know what, movie review gobbledygook. Because I don't think that it's about the Goldilocks zone. I think that it's about good quality writing, story writing, and world building. And the
Yeah, I
casual,
think what's above there, though, is basically like the audience has to do a lot of work to understand it.
yes, that right there. But if the story and the marketing would have been aligned to introduce people, these three are connected by a thread, and you need to watch this because the Marvels, Captain Marvel, is very important to the MCU omniverse. Why make it so abstract and obscure? The marketing doesn't even begin to tell a story. At least the stuff that I've seen. So, pardon me.
I would say the average person that was asked, what is the Marvels about? They would go, I don't know.
Exactly. Because,
I don't mean like a super fan for MCU, but just somebody in
right.
the general public.
Yeah, I think people understand Captain Marvel, but not Ms. Marvel. And frankly, I've lost that there's supposed to be three in this, but for crying out loud, man, I'm lost. Anyway, that's it for this article. Let's keep on going. We've got 3 more articles to go, and I soapboxed quite a lot. So the next article is over in ohmTown Daily. Dolly Parton, Taylor Swift, and more celebrities with species named after them. Let me make this one really quick, because I do really feel like I need to soapbox about this as well. But not because of this article. It's because of another article. But this one is a little bit more
approachable.
Yeah. Heavy Steel. Welcome to the show. Name a species after you? We'll have to find something appropriate. Let's see. We'll have to look into it. The eponym is a scientific species name that comes from a real or fictional person. Scientists have named many species after celebrities. They either want to honor the person or bring attention to the species, or both. When a scientist names a newly described species, there are certain rules that they have to follow, but that doesn't mean they can't get creative. When choosing a 2-word scientific name, researchers have long drawn inspiration from everything from myths to music to literature. But in this case, they're talking about Dolly Parton, Taylor Swift, and other celebrities. Jenny McGrath is the author over at businessinsider.com that put the article together. This is one that we've talked about. The Taylor Swift one we've talked about. The Dolly Parton one we've talked about. What was the newest one that we talked about? I think it was the Taylor Swift one.
I thought it was actually a second one for Jimmy Buffett. And then we also had one for Keanu Reeves.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Keanu Reeves is another. So in honor of Jimmy Buffett's Margaritaville, scientists named the yellow snail Cayo Margarita. But this other article that I'm not even, I didn't include in today's rundown. It When I saw this, I had already chosen this because I had a take on this where it seems odd to make something favorable to people to pay attention to it. Because if this thing is precariously perched on the border of cute, and not emphatically dangerous or so obscure that nobody will ever find it, people are going to go and try and get this thing, whatever it might be. Something named after Taylor Swift. Oh my God, I got to have it. You know? So when
Exactly.
choosing,
Instead of just going, oh, I need to preserve this.
yeah. So when choosing a name, they're trying to draw attention to it. But the problem is the wrong type of attention means that people are going to make something that is barely known to the scientific world, hence it was just now named, into something that's endangered or critical because people start trying to scoop it up out of the ocean or from the woods or whatever dirt pile they're found in. So it says here are 12 species from lichens to spiders and their eponymous celebrities. So there's a David Bowie spider. I actually knew about that one already. A Heteroptera David Bowie spider. Beyonce has a spider. Or, no, a bee. Sorry. A bee like horsefly, actually, which I think is rude. Scaptia or Plinthina. Beyonce. Bee like horsefly.
Well, isn't she queen bee?
I suppose. I'm not even going to go down that road. I'm going to put my comments in a box to the left. Johnny Cash has a tarantula. Angelina has a spider as well.
I had no idea there were so many celebrity named species.
David Attenborough. There was something else. We just talked about Attenborough.
An echidna.
Oh yeah, that's right. They rediscovered an echidna, and I think they're naming it after Attenborough.
Apparently, he has multiple things named after him.
Yeah. Jennifer Lopez. A mite? Yikes. Please don't name a mite after me. Radiohead and an ant called Radiohead Eye. Sarah Commermix. Interesting. That one actually looks really interesting. I wonder what all of that is. Little hairs. Pretty cool. So Taylor Swift is named, has a millipede called Nenaria swiftae. Millipede. Too funny. Her music helped me get through the highs and lows of graduate school, so naming a new millipede species after her is my way of saying thanks, says a Virginia Tech researcher, Derek Hennon. Talk about superfan. A Gnathia marleyi crustacean is named after Bob Marley, and Dolly Parton has their own lichen. Peter Benchley has a shark. Oprah Winfrey has another lichen. Wow. A lot of, and that's it. So I'm sure that there are more out there, but I ran through these pretty quick. Again, there is always more content at these articles. We kind of go over some of it and encourage you to go check it out. So let's keep on hustling. We got 2 more articles to go through. This next article is in Technology Today. I believe that we've spoken of this once before, but I wanted to talk about it again. Test driving the 100% electric Arc 1 speedboat. This is from CNET. They visited Long Beach, California to get their hands on the Arc 1, a limited edition luxury speedboat powered by 2 huge battery banks and cooled by the surrounding water. This is what it looks like. And I can't remember the price. They might say it in here. I think it's something like over $100,000 or something. don't hold me to that. We'll scroll down.
This does look familiar. I think we did have another article.
Yeah. But I wanted to talk about it because even in the day and age where we're sitting here grousing about having 250, maybe on downhill in a hurricane, 350 miles in an EV, you're going to get in a battery powered boat, toot around the bay, run out of battery power, and have to charge where for 2 hours?
Well, what if you're in the ocean or something? The bay is one thing, but better pick your route accordingly.
You better have a supply ship with a generator tooting behind you under steam power, because if it's electric too, it's done for. 500 horsepower. The Arc One's top speed is software set to 40 miles per hour. They had the opportunity to get behind the wheel briefly and bring this boat up to speed and put a smile on their face. What was that? Oh,
The price is $300,000.
I was off by a smidge. That's on par with other high-end gas boats of this type and $90,000 less than the competitor Candela's electric hydrofoil powerboat. Lee, who I think is the owner of the Mitch Lee, Arc co-founder, yeah, tells the author that they're already hard at work on its next boat, which can be reserved now via its website with a $500 deposit. More news is expected on Arc's next model. I've got a $100 down payment on a Bamboo electric EV minivan. Nothing Bupkiss has come out of that. Like, nobody has sent me an email, and it's been like
Isn't
3
that a
years.
canoe?
No, the canoe, right? Did I say bamboo?
Yes.
Canoe. Yeah, sorry, not bamboo. Canoe. Hey, it's late. It's not late. I don't know what to tell you. See, this is the AI keeps me in check and corrects my vocal typos.
I thought you had a second one.
Yeah, really. No, still waiting. I will probably never see that thing. That's okay. Let's keep on going. We've got one more article. Yay. Got to make that sound like Kermit the Frog. Woo! Okay, well, the last article for tonight, I won't be able to soapbox about this. You know, my bias is pretty tangible when it comes to anything Tesla. This article is over at ohmTown Daily. I found it fascinating. I actually went and looked. This actually is true. Tesla will sue you for $50,000 if you try to resell your Cybertruck within the first year. Yeah.
I mean, this reminds me of digital products or whatever. Now you can't even sell your vehicles.
Well, funny you should mention that. There is another article in ohmTown where, and I don't know which site it belongs to, so you'll have to go and do a search in ohmTown. But because cars are so software driven, you no longer own your car. You have a perpetual license to drive it around. And if you don't, for whatever reason, if they change the terms and your heated seats are powered by the software, you'll have to pay $5 a month or however long. BMW, I think it was like, you got to pay $49 a month or something like that. It was
Well,
asinine.
that backfired. I think they
Yeah.
stopped that, but
Yeah.
and there was an uproar.
Yep, exactly. So Tesla has released the sale terms for its long-awaited Cybertruck ahead of its November 30th release, or 30 November release. Some places like to flip that whole thing around. Anyway, owners of the EV pickup truck are banned from reselling their vehicles for the first year. Musk hopes to produce 250,000 annually by 2025. Well, whatever is produced in the first year won't be allowed to be sold, and they reserve the right to ban you from purchasing any other Tesla vehicles if you do try to sell it.
Why would anybody want this?
I don't
With
know
those
why.
terms, regardless of whatever you think of the truck.
Yeah. So I titled this segment "For Sale, Only Fans Wanted," not the website. But so this is an article over at businessinsider.com. Paulie Thompson is the author. I thought I wanted beyond all hope to like the design of the Cybertruck, but I think it's stupid. It's big, it's clunky. Every version of it that I've seen so far, either in person, I've actually seen the Cybertruck in person, or video or pictures, it has quality control issues. Elon Musk hopes to produce 250,000 annually by 2025, but somehow I doubt that there's going to be enough demand for these things. It makes me feel like the DeLorean, just without the snow tires. I don't know what Elon Musk will do, but anyway. So yeah, it says you agree that you will not sell or otherwise attempt to sell the vehicle within the first year following your vehicle's delivery date. Tesla may seek injunctive relief to prevent the transfer of the title of the vehicle or demand liquidated damages from you in the amount of $50,000 or the value received as consideration for the sale or transfer, whichever is greater. Tesla may also refuse to sell you any future vehicles. And
So if you're lucky enough to sell it for $100,000, they're coming after you for that.
Yes. Now, I don't see how this is enforceable. Now them saying, oh, by the way, that's something else that I learned. Let's see if it's in here. So,
I agree with you about it not being enforceable, but how do they have knowledge of it? Because the software.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it'll transfer over. Something that I didn't know about was the full self-driving feature. If it's activated in a vehicle, it's not transferable to a new owner. So I don't quite get it. Does that mean that if I sell my Tesla that has full self-driving, that the next person can't use full self-driving? Or does it just
I don't know.
switch?
I think they just start a new subscription, because I don't even like that for the original owner. You have to do a subscription to have full self-driving instead of a one-time fee.
Yeah, $200 a month. Yeah, you're perpetually at the hip.
Paying to drive your own vehicle.
Yeah. So it was first announced in 2019. It took a while to actually turn into something. Tesla originally said that the price of the truck would start at $40,000, but everybody believes it's going to be more. I don't know what the real price is just yet, but Elon Musk said
I'm guessing $50K.
That makes sense. It would take a year to 18 months before the EV truck can become a significant cash flow contributor, adding that he had hoped that the production of the Cybertruck would reach 250,000 annually by 2025. I just don't see it. But Heavy Steel says, when does Tesla get sued for predatory consumer policies? Probably when somebody who isn't a fan gets sick of his shit. So.
But might be the first Cybertruck owner.
Well, the first one within the year that wants to sell it.
Right.
You can put sale terms into anything, but without the ability to negotiate them one way or the other, the only bargaining power you have is to not purchase. And I'm not quite sure U.S. law is compatible with that type of ideology.
Nor would I expect the European law is.
I don't know. I've heard rumors like Ferrari, you can't buy a certain Ferrari until you own a previous Ferrari. And in some cases, somebody has to speak up for you, like on your behalf, like, hey, yeah, they'll take care of it. They love that.
Like idea. An endorsement?
Yeah. But I've never seen it enumerated, so I haven't seen a sale contract on a Ferrari. So I don't know if it's enumerated there. I'm sure I could get my hands on one, but here I just don't get it. when you purchase something, you have for sale doctrine. I can resell any property that I own. It's
And I'm assuming you're actually buying the truck and not leasing it.
right.
But this makes it look like a lease.
Yeah. For the first year, you're actually in bed with Tesla and you cannot get out until a year goes by. It's almost like having a renter in your apartment and you're sleeping in your van. Yeah.
Oh, you mean like the Airbnb landlord that has run into some problems?
Landlords, plural now. I mean, it's more
Yes.
than, but that's what this really smacks of. And here's like, there's more icing on the cake of this. If a customer has a good reason to sell their Cybertruck, Tesla may agree to buy it back at the original price minus 25 cents per mile driven, reasonable wear and tear, and the cost to repair the vehicle to Tesla's used vehicle cosmetic and mechanical standards. So that truck is still owned by Tesla, even though you pay for it. And if you want to sell it for a profit, because you're just done with this shit, whatever is going on, you're just done. The only person you can sell it to is at the original price minus losses, like a lease. This is insane. Why would anybody buy this?
I don't know. And why would anybody buy as a resale? Because they'd be fearful that they're going to get embroiled in some sort of lawsuit with Tesla.
Yeah. So obviously talking about this is going to, but is that what this is all about? You know, it's stirring the pot by putting this in place, and then idiots like me are sitting there talking about it. And then it's removed just arbitrarily. We'll just remove it because there's too much negative hype, but it's still hype.
I don't
it's
know.
Still out there.
I'm not going to comment on the tactics of the company owner here.
Boy, genius. Yeah. Yeah, I'm just shocked that anybody would buy this. Not only because of every report that's ever talked about the Cybertruck's embodiment right now being, and Tesla's in general being kind of hinky. But
the only coverage I ever see is about the wiper.
Yeah. That's pretty funny. Yeah. I don't know. It just seems like everything is in beta. And well, don't worry, we'll do it live and we'll fix it in post later on at some point if enough people complain about it. But while everybody's complaining about it, let's ramp up that team to mitigate any public disclosure of all of their unhappiness, because that actually existed too. Yeah, it's pretty sad. I don't know. But hey, I had nothing to do with it. But let's just say society created the monster and now we're trying to just deal with it. Anyway, that's it for today, folks. Enough of my soapboxing. We ran really long today. This is like the longest 10 that we've done. Not that I really obsess about the time, but I try and be efficient so that everybody can actually go about their day after an hour. But I leave all of this in here. This is how the sausage is made here in ohmTown. ASMR. That's it. I'm done. I'm Mayor Watt. No, okay. Wait. Sorry, I'm in trouble already. I'm not allowed to leave yet, Heavy Steel. So if you do take off, you have a good night. But I'm supposed to bring us all back down Main Street, refresh that front page, walk through this. I want to see Rebel Moon. There's a new Rebel Moon Part 1, A Child of Fire. That's supposed to be on Netflix, I think it is. Netflix. Which is interesting to me. But anyway, I want to see this. I saw this right before the show, but I didn't get a chance to go and look into it. Oh God.
How about tourists rethinking their relationship with Earth?
Yeah, Earth is breaking up with us, and all of the tourists have to rethink because Earth is saying, I'm taking my box. That's to the left.
You have Beyonce on the brain today.
Hey, a UNESCO World Heritage Site with thousands of people living inside it. Must be an Airbnb. Let's see what else.
That aren't paying rent.
That aren't paying rent. Yes, that's true. Let's see. Upgrade your gaming system on a budget with a $145 27-inch Acer Nitro monitor. That is an ad, but hey, a 27-inch.
Still sounds like a good deal, right?
Yeah, 27-inch monitor for $145. That's a hell of a deal. Depends on what it is, though. You know, I mean, if it isn't 1440, then I don't know. It's probably 1080 though. That's pretty much the standard, but we're pushing harder into 1440 as standard. At least technology-wise. Let's see. What else? We need to watch more of One Piece. Did you want me to go up or down?
I was just trying to get more variety. That was mainly entertainment articles.
Yeah, we got a bunch of stuff.
Netflix Games is going to bring Hades to iOS in 2024.
Oh my goodness. To iOS. All right. All right. That's it. Black Friday. Black Friday deals? When is Black Friday?
Yeah, they've started that basically at the beginning of November. Like, we're so far removed from it, just becomes this month-long.
Oh gosh, it's like so many other things. Games are released and announced and then hyped for 2 years. Movies, all kinds of stuff. Blah, blah, blah. All right, that's it. I am Mayor Watt. That's ohmTown.com. And up there is the sentient AI that made me talk for 5 more minutes to talk about upcoming articles that we'll talk about tomorrow. You want to say goodnight?
I don't think I was the cause of that. Yes. Good night, ohmTown citizens. We will see you tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern because it'll be Monday's show.
Monday. Heavy Steel, thanks for sticking around. If you did, we'll see you tomorrow. Hopefully, everybody in that's lurking, appreciate your time. Thanks for sticking around. Be sure to follow if you're not already following. We haven't moved the needle of followers for a while now, but again, we are typically a 1 hour show. 1 hour show, not an hour and 40 minutes. But we got steamy. Okay, that's it. See you tomorrow. Bye, everybody. I muted the music like 30 minutes ago and never turned it back on. See ya, everybody. Actually, an hour ago. See ya. Bye.